Hello everybody. Today we have lesson 4, time, place and numbers. Let's start with frequency adverbs. These frequency adverbs are used to discuss how often something happens. These adverbs of frequency are often used to indicate routine or repeated activities, so they are often used with the present simple tense. Pay attention, they are only used with simple present tense. In affirmative state, we have always, usually, sometimes, often, frequently, generally, habitually, occasionally. And with negatives, we use seldom, rarely, hardly ever, never. As for questions or interrogative, we use ever. For example, he is often late for work. My father never tells lies. I usually spend my evenings with my children. My watch never keeps right time. This table shows the rate for each frequency adverb, and you can see that always indicates 100% repetition, and we see that never indicates 0% repetition. That's why it is used with negative sentences, and the same for hardly ever, rarely, seldom. And the rest of the frequency adverbs take different percent to indicate repetition. In negative statements, we can negate either by using frequency adverbs, as in Bill seldom calls his mother in the mornings, which means that Bill doesn't always call his mother in the morning. She is hardly ever at home then, and in this way we have negated the sentence by using the frequency adverb without not. And we can as well negate the sentence by using not, as in Bill doesn't often call his mother in the morning. She isn't usually at home then. So we can use not in order to negate a sentence that contains a frequency adverb, or use the negative forms of frequency adverbs to negate the sentence. We also can have frequency adverbs with questions. For example, does Bill ever call his mother in the morning? We can see that ever here is used in questions. Is she frequently at home then? Also, other frequency adverbs can be used in questions, but ever is only used with questions, not like other frequency adverbs. Who sometimes calls his mother in the morning? When does Bill usually call his mother? These are information questions. Where does Mrs. Brown normally go in the morning? What does she always do there? So we can have frequency adverbs with yes/no questions and with WH questions, which means information questions. Also, we have some notes regarding the time and place at the beginning of the sentence. We can put time expressions, place expressions at the beginning of the sentence, not as we used to use them at the end of the sentence. Why? We do that when the speaker wishes to emphasize time or place. That's why it is moved to the beginning of the sentence. For example, with time, on Saturday nights, Jack goes to the movies. Nowadays, I live in a small town. As for place, in the library, there are different types of books. There, the students do their assignments. Let's move for numbers. We have two types of numbers. We have cardinal numbers. These are used with counting, as in 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. And we have ordinal numbers. These are used to indicate the rank, as in first, second, third, fifth, eighth, etc. If we have in the same sentence the cardinal numbers and the ordinal numbers comes first. You can see that in the following examples. The first 5 exercises are easy. The second 40 items are short. Now we have some notes regarding how to use prepositions before time. We can use at, in, and on. As for at, it is used before precise time, as in at 3 o'clock, at 10:30, at noon, which means a precise time, a specific period of time, at bedtime, at sunrise. These are short periods, you can notice that. Also, we can use in. In is used before months, years, centuries, and long periods, as in May, in summer, in the summer, in 1990, in the 1990s, in the next century. All these are long periods, months, seasons. As for on is used before days and dates. So I can say on Sunday, on Tuesday, on 6th March, on 25th December, on Christmas Day. It is a date. On Independence Day, it's also a date. On my birthday, this is a date. So we use these prepositions in these slots or these positions. Let's take a look at the following examples regarding how to use prepositions before time. I have a meeting at 9 a.m. The shop closes at midnight. Jane went home at lunchtime. In England, it often snows in December. Do you think we will go to Jupiter in the future? There should be a lot of progress in the next century. Do you work on Mondays? Her birthday is on 20 November. Where will you be on New Year's Day? And here we move for how to use prepositions with place. We also have at, in, and on. With at, we use at before a point, a specific point, a small place, like at the corner, at the bus stop, at the door, at the top of the page, at the end of the road, at the entrance, etc. As for in, it is used before enclosed space, in the garden, in London, in France, in a box, in my bucket. On is used to indicate a surface, on the wall, on the ceiling, on the door, on the cover, on the floor. And here are some examples regarding how to use prepositions with place. Jane is waiting for you at the bus stop. The shop is at the end of the street. My plane stopped at Dubai and Hanoi and arrived in Bangkok 2 hours late. When will you arrive at the office? Do you work in an office? I have a meeting in New York, and the rest of the examples. Now we have transitive verbs. First, let us understand why do we call them transitive verbs. A transitive verb is a verb that can take a direct object. In other words, the action of the transitive verb is done to someone or something. Most verbs are transitives. For example, Lee eats pies. Eats is a transitive. Why? Because you can eat something. You cannot say Lee eats and stop talking. You should say what Lee eats. John loves apple pies. Loves is a transitive because you can love something or someone. Note that direct objects aren't usually single words, they are usually noun phrases. For example, more than one word. So the objects here sometimes are simple words, single words, or noun phrases, more than one word together. I bought dozens of cakes. Bought is a transitive because you should buy something. You cannot say I bought and stop. You should say what you have bought. She brings coffee to me. If you stop after saying she brings, it's not meaningful. You should mention what you have bring. She brings coffee. Juan is throwing the ball. You cannot say Juan is throwing and stop. You should mention what Juan has thrown. Juan is throwing the ball. Intransitive verbs differ from transitive verbs. Why? Because intransitive verbs do not take direct objects. In other words, the action is not done for someone or something. It only involves the subject. So, in this case, with intransitive verbs, the sentence will be complete by the subject and the verb. For example, they jumped. That's it. We understand that they jumped. The dog ran. She usually sings. A light is shining. Mr. Smith arrives. The tree dies. We understand the meaning only by the subject and the verb, without any need for an object. Also, we have some verbs that are both transitive and intransitive. For example, the verb continue. In this case, we depend on the meaning. So, according to the meaning of the verb, sometimes with one meaning it is transitive, with another meaning it is intransitive. Continue. We will continue the meeting after the break. In this case, it is transitive. But the meeting continued after the break. In this case, it is intransitive. Play. 3 of the students play the guitar. In this sentence, play is transitive. The students will play outside today. In this case, it is intransitive. How can we get that? We can get that by the meaning of the sentence. If we remove the complement and we get a complete sentence by the subject and the verb, then it is intransitive verb. But if we remove the complement and we still do not understand the meaning of the sentence, we feel that something is missing, then this is a transitive verb. That's all for our lesson today. Thank you very much, and I wish you a happy weekend.